jail. That is not self-defense. You were trying to self-defend the car, bro.
This morning around 9:30, there was a fight between two women. That scene unfolding here near State and Cermak. One of the women allegedly pulled out a gun and shot the other woman in the face. The 31-year-old victim was taken to the hospital and later died.
Happy Monday, son. This is a fresh start to this day, and you can start off strong. Always remain yourself. You're the coolest, smartest, and funniest kid I know. I love you so much. Love, Mommy. These were the last words 31-year-old Romeca Meeks wrote to her son on September 8, 2025. She packed his lunch with care, kissed him goodbye, and drove to his school in Chicago's South Loop. It was just another Monday morning. Just another school drop-off, and in less than 2 hours, she was dead. Shot point blank in the face by her ex-boyfriend's other baby mama right outside her child's school. And she even stayed at the scene like nothing happened. But here's what really went down that morning. Romeca had a restraining order against her ex, Carlos Way. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near her. Yet there he was, waiting by the school. And when Romeca tried to leave after dropping off her son, Carlos grabbed her, put her in a headlock, held her down while his girlfriend, Holly Johnson, got out of their car. That's when Holly pulled out her gun. The whole thing was caught on cell phone video. Parents screaming, kids watching from classroom windows, blood on the pavement where a mother took her last breath. Now, before we go any further, I want to ask you something. Do you often drop your kids off at school every morning? How safe do you feel in that school parking lot? Because what happened to Romeca could happen to anyone. And the question that haunts everyone who knew her is this: if a restraining order couldn't protect her, what could have? Welcome to our channel. Right now, there are thousands of women like Romeca who are trying to escape toxic relationships, completely unaware that restraining orders and legal protections might not be enough to keep them safe from their abusers. If you want to help spread awareness about domestic violence and the system failures that cost innocent lives, then please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Your action now could help protect another mother who might be in danger. Now let me tell you a bit about who Romeca really was. Romeca Meeks was more than just another news headline. She was a 31-year-old single mom who worked hard to give her young son the best life possible. Every morning she would wake up early, make his breakfast, pack his lunch, and write him little notes of encouragement. Her friends described her as the kind of mother who never missed a school event. She was always there at parent-teacher conferences, school plays, and basketball games. Her whole world revolved around that little boy. But Romeca's life wasn't easy. She had been in a relationship with Carlos Way, who went by the street name Lusos. Carlos was the father of her son, but their relationship had turned toxic. Carlos had other women in his life, other children with different mothers. The drama never seemed to end. Things got so bad between them that Romeca had to take legal action. She went to court and got a restraining order against Carlos. This wasn't just a piece of paper to her, it was supposed to be her protection. The court order said Carlos had to stay away from her. He couldn't contact her. He couldn't show up at places where she would be. Romeca thought this would finally give her peace. She could focus on raising her son without the constant fear and drama. She had dreams for her boy's future. She wanted him to go to college, to have opportunities she never had. In her social media posts, she would talk about how proud she was of him, how smart and funny he was. She was working toward building a stable life for both of them, a life where her son could grow up safe and happy, a life where she didn't have to look over her shoulder every time she left the house. But Carlos Way had other plans, and so did his new girlfriend, Holly Johnson. To understand what happened to Romeca, you need to know about Carlos Way and the mess he created with multiple women and children. Carlos, who called himself Losos on the streets, wasn't just Romeca's ex-boyfriend. He was a man who had children with different women, and he seemed to enjoy the drama that came with it. While he was with Romeca, he was also involved with other women. This wasn't a secret, everyone knew about it. One of those women was Holly Johnson. Holly wasn't just some random girlfriend. She was the mother of one of Carlos's other children. This meant she was permanently connected to Carlos through their kid, just like Romeca was connected to him through her son. But Holly was different from Romeca in one dangerous way. Holly had a concealed carry permit. She legally owned a gun and was allowed to carry it with her wherever she went. This detail would become crucial on that September morning. The relationship between these three people was like a bomb waiting to explode. Romeca wanted Carlos to leave her alone so she could raise her son in peace. But Carlos couldn't seem to stay away. And Holly? She saw Romeca as competition, even though Romeca had moved on and just wanted to co-parent their children safely. Social media posts from people who knew them showed this wasn't the first time there had been problems. Friends and family members had been posting about the ongoing drama between Carlos, Romeca, and Holly for months. There were arguments about the kids, about money, about who Carlos was spending time with. The tension kept getting worse. Romeca's family later said she had been scared. She didn't feel safe around Carlos anymore, which is why she got the restraining order. But restraining orders only work if people follow them, and Carlos Way clearly had no intention of following any court orders. Holly Johnson also seemed to feed off the drama. Instead of encouraging Carlos to respect the restraining order and leave Romeca alone, she appeared to be right there with him, ready for confrontation. What made this situation even more dangerous was that both Carlos and Holly seemed to think they could do whatever they wanted. They acted like the law didn't apply to them, like Romeca's safety didn't matter. This toxic mix of jealousy, disrespect for the law, and easy access to a weapon was about to turn deadly. September 8, 2025 started like any other Monday for Romeca Meeks. She woke up early and began her usual morning routine with her son. She made his breakfast, packed his lunch, and did something she always did. She wrote him a note. This wasn't just any note. Romeca always tried to encourage her boy, especially on Mondays when the school week was starting fresh. She grabbed a piece of paper and wrote, "Happy Monday, son. This is a fresh start to this day and you can start off strong. Always remain yourself. You're the coolest, smartest, and funniest kid I know. I love you so much. Love, Mommy." She tucked the note into his lunchbox, kissed him goodbye, and they headed out to the car. Romeca had no idea this would be the last morning routine she would ever share with her son. The drive to school was normal. They probably talked about his day ahead, maybe listened to music on the radio. When they arrived at the school in Chicago's South Loop area, near Cermak Road and State Street, Romeca walked her son to the entrance like she always did. She hugged him, told him to have a good day, and watched him go inside. It was around 9:30 in the morning. Romeca got back in her car and prepared to drive to work. This should have been the end of her school drop-off routine. But as she was getting ready to leave, something happened that would change everything. Carlos Way and Holly Johnson showed up. Remember, Carlos had a restraining order against him. He was legally required to stay away from Romeca. But there he was, in the school parking area with his girlfriend Holly. They had been waiting for her. Witnesses later said Carlos approached Romeca's car. At first, it might have looked like a normal conversation between two parents, but things went bad fast. Carlos started arguing with Romeca. Other parents in the area could hear voices getting louder. Within minutes, the argument turned physical. Carlos grabbed Romeca and put her in a headlock. She was trapped. She couldn't get away from him. And that's when Holly Johnson got out of their black Chevy sedan. Holly had her gun with her. At exactly 9:35 a.m., multiple people called 911. They reported hearing gunshots near the school. By the time police arrived, Romeca was lying in the street, bleeding from gunshot wounds to her face and leg. The whole thing happened so fast. One minute, Romeca was just a mom dropping her kid off at school. The next minute, she was fighting for her life in a hospital emergency room. Now I want to ask you something. What do you think about restraining orders? Do you believe they actually protect people, or are they just pieces of paper? Because Romeca had that legal protection, and it didn't save her life. Let me know in the comments what you think needs to change about how we protect people from their abusers. What happened next was captured on cell phone video by shocked parents and witnesses. The footage shows exactly how this wasn't a fair fight. It was an ambush. Carlos Way approached Romeca's car as she was getting ready to leave the school area. At first, other parents nearby thought it was just two people talking. But within seconds, the conversation turned into an argument. Carlos was yelling at Romeca, and she was trying to get away from him. That's when Carlos made his move. He grabbed Romeca and put her in a headlock. This wasn't just holding her, he was choking her, controlling her, making it impossible for her to defend herself or run away. Romeca was trapped in his grip, struggling to breathe. While Carlos held Romeca in that headlock, Holly Johnson calmly got out of their black Chevy sedan. She walked around to where Carlos was holding Romeca. And then she pulled out her gun. Witnesses said Holly didn't hesitate. She didn't try to break up the fight. She didn't tell Carlos to let Romeca go. Instead, she pointed her weapon directly at Romeca's face and pulled the trigger. The first shot hit Romeca in the chin, but Holly wasn't done. She fired again, hitting Romeca in the thigh. The shots were fired at point-blank range, meaning the gun was so close to Romeca that there was no way Holly could miss. Parents who saw it happen said the sound was deafening. Children in nearby classrooms heard the gunshots. Some kids were looking out the windows and saw their classmate's mother get shot. Romeca collapsed against the car, blood pouring from her wounds. Shell casings scattered on the ground around her. Some of the casings even landed on top of the car's windshield, showing just how close Holly was when she fired those shots. But here's what makes this even more disturbing. After shooting Romeca, Holly Johnson didn't run away. She didn't panic. She just stood there like nothing had happened. When police arrived, she was still at the scene, acting calm and collected. Holly immediately told the officers that she had acted in self-defense. She showed them her concealed carry permit and said she was legally allowed to have the gun. She claimed that Romeca had been attacking her and that she had no choice but to shoot. But the witnesses told a completely different story. They said Romeca never attacked Holly. They said Romeca was being held in a headlock by Carlos and couldn't even move her arms to defend herself, let alone attack anyone. Romeca's cousin was one of the people who spoke up right away.
No, they was never fighting. He was trying to stop them. The girl and her never fought. It's on camera. He was trying to stop them from fighting. That's how he had her in a headlock. So he was trying to prevent it or whatever. They said the girl, when Los had her, like pushing her back and stuff, the girl ran back to her car, grabbed the gun, came back shooting.
She posted on social media, "This is my cousin and this is not what happened. He was fighting my cousin. His baby mama got out the car and shot her. There was no self-defense and Romeca was not fighting over him." Other witnesses agreed. They said Romeca was the victim from start to finish. She had been ambushed by two people who were supposed to stay away from her because of the restraining order. Emergency medical teams arrived within minutes of the 911 calls. They found Romeca unconscious and bleeding heavily. The paramedics started chest compressions right there on the street, trying to keep her heart beating. They loaded her into an ambulance and rushed her to the hospital. The doctors and nurses at the hospital did everything they could to save Romeca's life, but the damage was too severe. The gunshot to her face had caused massive trauma. At 9:42 a.m., just over an hour after she had kissed her son goodbye at school, Romeca Meeks was pronounced dead. In that moment, a little boy became an orphan. A family lost their daughter, sister, and cousin. And a community lost a mother who had been trying to do nothing more than raise her child safely. Meanwhile, Holly Johnson was taken into custody. The gun that killed Romeca was recovered from the scene. Carlos Way, who had started the whole confrontation by violating his restraining order, was also detained by police. But for Romeca, it was too late. The system that was supposed to protect her had failed completely. Carlos Way was also detained by police for questioning. He had clearly violated his restraining order by being anywhere near Romeca. But more than that, witnesses had seen him put Romeca in a headlock right before Holly shot her. The Chicago Police Department's Area 3 detectives took over the investigation. They classified the case as a domestic homicide, which meant they understood this wasn't a random act of violence. It was connected to the ongoing drama between these three people. While police were processing the crime scene, Romeca's family was getting the worst news of their lives. Her sister, cousins, and other relatives rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. Romeca was already gone. The family was devastated. But they were also angry. They knew Holly's self-defense claim was a lie, and they weren't going to stay quiet about it. The community response was immediate and intense. People who knew Romeca started sharing memories of her as a loving mother. Parents from her son's school expressed shock that something so violent could happen during a routine school drop-off. But the response wasn't all supportive. Some people on social media started sharing graphic videos and photos from the crime scene. These disturbing images showed Romeca's body and the blood at the scene. Her family was horrified that people were treating their loved one's death like entertainment. Romeca's sister made a public plea asking people to stop sharing the graphic content. She said it was disrespectful to Romeca's memory and traumatic for her surviving son, who might see these images online.
Please, y'all. Please stop sharing them. Poses of my sister, please. Please stop sharing that post of my baby sister on that ground, please. Get y'all, please. For my mama and for me and my siblings' sake. Please, y'all.
The family also had to deal with another painful reality. Some people were blaming Romeca for her own death. Comments on social media suggested she should have stayed away from Carlos, or that she was somehow responsible for the drama that led to her murder. But those who knew Romeca fought back against these victim-blaming comments. They reminded everyone that Romeca had done everything right. She had gotten a restraining order and tried to protect herself legally. Romeca's murder wasn't just a tragic, isolated incident. It represents a much bigger problem that's happening all across America, every single day. Let's talk about restraining orders first. These legal documents are supposed to protect people from their abusers, but the reality is that they're violated constantly. Studies show that about 40% of restraining orders are violated within 2 years, and when they are violated, the consequences are often deadly. The problem is simple. Restraining orders are just pieces of paper. They can't physically stop someone who's determined to hurt you. They only work if the person actually respects the law and stays away. But people like Carlos Way don't care about court orders or legal consequences. What makes Romeca's case even more disturbing is where it happened, at a school. Schools are supposed to be safe spaces for children and families, but domestic violence is increasingly spilling over into these areas. Across the country, there have been multiple cases of parents being attacked, threatened, or even killed during school drop-offs and pickups. Abusive ex-partners know that their victims have to show up at certain places at certain times, like schools, so they use these predictable routines to ambush them. The system failed Romeca in multiple ways. First, there was no real enforcement of her restraining order. Carlos was able to show up at her son's school without any consequences until it was too late. Second, there was no system in place to warn Romeca that Carlos and Holly were in the area. Many experts say we need better technology to protect domestic violence victims. Some states are testing GPS monitoring for people who violate restraining orders. Others are creating apps that can alert victims when their abusers are nearby. But there's another big problem in Romeca's case: Holly Johnson's access to a gun. Holly had a concealed carry permit, which meant she could legally carry her weapon almost anywhere, but should someone involved in ongoing domestic drama have easy access to a firearm? Research shows that domestic violence situations become 5 times more deadly when there's a gun involved. Yet many states don't have laws preventing people in volatile relationships from carrying weapons. Some states have started passing red flag laws that temporarily remove guns from people who might be dangerous. But these laws are controversial and not widely used. The truth is that our legal system is set up to react to violence, not prevent it. Police can arrest someone after they violate a restraining order, but they can't be everywhere at once to stop violations from happening. Domestic violence experts say we need a complete change in how we handle these cases. Instead of just giving victims a piece of paper and hoping for the best, We need active monitoring, better enforcement, and real consequences for people who refuse to follow court orders. We also need to recognize that domestic violence doesn't just affect the people directly involved. Romeca's son will live with the trauma of losing his mother forever. The other children at that school witnessed something no child should ever see. Until we start taking domestic violence seriously as a public safety issue, more people like Romeca may still be affected. The biggest victim in this tragedy is Romeca's young son. He went to school that Monday morning with a loving note from his mom in his lunchbox. By the time school ended, he was an orphan. This little boy will have to grow up knowing that his mother was murdered right outside his school by his father's girlfriend. The trauma doesn't end there. Other children at the school heard the gunshots. Some saw the aftermath. Parents are now scared to do something as simple as dropping their kids off at school. The place that should feel safest now feels dangerous. Romeca's family is fighting for justice, but they're also fighting just to grieve in peace. They've had to deal with graphic videos of their loved one's death being shared online. They've had to defend Romeca against people who blame her for her own murder. Her sister and cousins are now raising awareness about domestic violence. They want Romeca's death to mean something, to help other women who might be in similar situations. The community is demanding change. Parents are asking for better security at schools. They want safe zones for custody exchanges. They want laws that actually protect people. What do you think could have prevented this tragedy? What changes need to happen to keep families safe? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Romeca's death could have been prevented. There are real solutions that communities across America are starting to use to protect families like hers. First, we need safe exchange zones. These are special areas, usually at police stations or community centers, where parents can drop off and pick up their children safely. These zones have security cameras and sometimes even police officers nearby. If Carlos and Holly had been forced to use a safe exchange zone, Romeca might still be alive today. Second, we need better gun laws for domestic violence cases. When someone has a restraining order against them or when they're involved in ongoing family drama, they shouldn't have easy access to weapons. Some states are starting to pass laws that temporarily remove guns from dangerous situations. Third, schools need better safety plans. Many schools now have protocols for parents who are in abusive relationships. They can arrange special drop-off times or locations to keep everyone safe. But here's how you can help in your own community. If you know someone who's being threatened or harassed by an ex-partner, don't just tell them to stay strong. Help them make a safety plan. Connect them with local domestic violence resources. Offer to go with them to court or to pick up their kids. Also, if you see something that doesn't look right, like an argument getting heated in a school parking lot, don't just walk away. Call for help. Sometimes a simple phone call to security or police can save a life. We all have a role to play in keeping our communities safe. Romeca Meeks should still be alive today. She should be picking up her son from school, helping him with homework and watching him grow up. Instead, her life was cut short by two people who refused to respect the law and leave her alone. Holly Johnson remains in custody, charged with Romeca's murder. The case is still working its way through the court system. Carlos Way, who started the whole confrontation by violating his restraining order, is also facing charges for his role in Romeca's death. But no matter what happens in court, nothing will bring Romeca back. Her son will grow up without his mother. Her family will always have an empty chair at the dinner table. Romeca's legacy should be change. Real change that protects other women from suffering the same fate. Her story should make us demand better laws, better enforcement, and better protection for domestic violence victims. If this case has affected you, please share this video. Help spread awareness about the failures in our system that cost Romeca her life. And if you want to stay updated on cases like this one, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Together we can make sure Romeca Meeks didn't die for nothing. We can fight for a world where no mother has to fear for her life just for dropping her child off at school.